I start a little early. I like your garb you're wearing today. Got the Rhode Island gear on, and you're dressed in black. You're an assassin ready to beat the next opponent, like you did in college. Wouldn't you say?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, it's
Oh
great.
yeah, rep Rudy. Always rep Rudy wherever I'm at. So
Yeah, I'd like to start selling some of those on the Facebook page we have. Uh, Actually, everything. Maybe you could be one of the models for wearing that.
good idea.
Well, Andre, there's a reason why you're on today because you were an excellent basketball player, and without you in the equation, I don't think URI would have been in those two NCAAs because you had some games that you came through in both seasons, especially your senior season. Uh, the Dayton game, I remember. I think that was one of the games. Maybe you could correct me if you the top game.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the games. That
That
was
was,
one of the games.
what happened in that game? Can you refresh my memory? You made some crazy shots, or just
Yeah.
put them away when you were losing. You should have lost the game, right?
Yeah, it was a road game at Dayton, and Hassan Martin wasn't playing, EC Matthews wasn't playing, and we win that game with like 7 players.
Oh
And
wow!
then and then it was a road game, and then Hurley had to play everybody. So it was one of them games where I was just excited to play.
And you came
And
through.
then we win that game, and then it came with the win. And I think I had 15 points that game.
And that was
Seven,
almost like a
seven,
coming out
seven.
party.
Yeah, that was a big game at Dayton because Dayton gets loud, so it was good to shut them up a little bit.
But what I'd like to do now to get started is to I did a little PowerPoint, and it'll help our viewers know who you are, and let's watch that.
Okay.
Okay, so let's meet Andre Barry. You're a 6'8", 275-pound forward center. You're from
Yeah.
West Hempstead, New York, and then I understand you transferred to Rhode Island and St. Andrews in Barrington, Rhode Island. That was
Mhm.
interesting. I wouldn't have known that unless I did some research last night on you. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I did 2 years at public school in New York, and then I wanted to take this basketball thing a little more serious. And then I know my uncle who lives in Providence mentioned like prep schools to me when I used to come visit him every summer. So like once I mentioned that I wanted to transfer schools, I started looking at different like prep schools. I was looking at St. Andrews, one of them, Salisbury School in Connecticut, even like schools like Moses Brown, um, the Hun School, like all these schools I was looking at because I wanted to take the next step in basketball. And then, but my uncle knew the coach at St. Andrews, and I didn't know much about St. Andrews at all. And then I did my research on them. And I saw their history they had. They had a lot of great players go through there. Michael Carter Williams, Rakim Sanders, Tony Robinson, Demetrius Nichols. So it was like a whole list of great players that went there. And I was like, it's not too far from home. I got family in Providence, so I'm still right there. And then I decided to go there for my junior and senior year.
Did you think at that time that you would be playing with Rhode Island in the NCAA twice?
I had no idea. I had no idea.
Which
It
leads
was
to the next question. How did you find yourself at New Mexico Military Institute?
so after St. Andrews, at St. Andrews, I like still wasn't hearing from like, a lot of schools, and then and my goal was to play Division I basketball. So I wasn't hearing from a lot of schools, and I was like, do I want to just settle for going Division II or like low Division II or Division III? And it's like, and I knew myself that I was better than it. And then so one day I was I'll never forget, I was on a train going from Providence to New York to see my fam, and this number kept calling me, and like I didn't know who it was, so I never answered it. And then I finally answered it. And then there was this guy by the name of Ralph Davis. He said he's a coach from the Mexico Military Institute, and that he's been watching me play since I was in like ninth grade. And then he thought that I would be like picked up by one of these Division I schools already. So he was shocked that I wasn't signed, or no team was showing interest in me. He was shocked. So then he was like, "Listen, I'm gonna tell you this." He said, "If you come here for one season and you play well and you do what you got to do, you're gonna be one of the best players in the whole junior college." And like I'm still like, it's a military school. I really don't want to deal with the military stuff. And I kept pushing him off. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna just take this free ride and then see what it's about. And then hopefully after 1 year, I could just make my way out of there.
And he said you were going to be one of the best. I understand. I did my homework on you. You were top 25 in the nation field goal percentage. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. I
So
was.
you had a
I
good.
was one of the best. Yeah, I was one of the most efficient big men in the whole junior college association.
And we'll be talking about how efficient you are because that's something that really helps every team. And moving forward, I wish we could clone you and bring you back because efficiency is so important in winning. And
Yeah,
you always
so,
can count. You wouldn't make that bad pass. You wouldn't take the wrong shot. Uh, you just were very dependable, and
yeah,
teams really need that. And we've gone through some tough years after that, and just remembering after doing looking at your background that that was something. Uh,
yeah.
so basically, you were recruited. How were you recruited after New Mexico? What did that look like?
Oh, it just, everything happened so fast to me. So I got there in August, and then we had like a tournament in Dallas in October. I'll never forget, in October. And then I did so well at that tournament. The next few months, I was just getting calls every day. I was hearing from the low schools to the high major schools to the mid schools, like North Texas, Texas State, Washington State, Virginia Tech,
Um,
South Carolina, um, Texas Tech, Texas A&M, New Mexico, New Mexico. It was so crazy because I was then like the Hartfords and stuff, the Hartfords, the Fairfields, the Albanese. You know what I mean? It happened so fast because just a few months ago I was hearing from none of these schools, and then and like one weekend I did well, then it just blew up, and I just kept it going from there. And then and then I took a visit to North Texas, Texas State, no, North Texas, Texas, San Antonio, Virginia Tech, URI, and Texas Tech. Those are my 5 visits.
so you were really sought after. It was a good recruit by Hurley and Coach Cox, now head coach. What
Yeah.
made you pick URI over those other four schools?
Um, on my visit at URI, it just felt like the team was so well connected and well gelled, and it was a very honest visit. Hurley had a plan to make URI one of the best teams in the country, and he had the plan written out. He had everything. He knew everything he wanted to do for the program. He didn't. He said it's gonna be a lot of hard work, and I know, and I heard the Hurley name from. 'Cause I'm from New York, so I feel like the Hurley name is very powerful. And I'm like, this guy knows basketball like no other. You know what I mean? And like
Yeah,
he has experience like like nobody else. And it was just like it's a great spot for me. I'm I'm still close to home. I'll be competing for NCAA tournament. I'll be competing at the highest level, and I'm being coached by one of the best coaches. Because it's the same way he built up Wagner was the same way he wanted to build up URI.
look at some of these statistics that we have here. Uh, we played on two NCAA roadie teams, 2016,
hmm
17, 18. Your first start was, remember this one against UNC Asheville? You had 15 points, 17 minutes. Um,
Yeah, that was
then,
my senior year.
yeah, then your career high. A lot of great things happened your senior year. It gradually you went from your sophomore a little bit of play. Junior, I think you had a couple of good games, and then senior year is when you took off. And I think
Yeah,
we realized that you had the talent going into your senior year. You proved it in your junior year, but your senior year was really spectacular, and it was a big difference from the other seasons. How about the Seton Hall game? That was, you had 8 points, 7 rebounds. You're playing against a top 20 school. We won by 1 point with Jared Terrell's drive, but
yeah.
like I'm saying, we wouldn't have won that game if we didn't have you in there with those 8 points and 7 rebounds. So you seem to show up for big games. What do you think about that?
Yeah, yeah. That Seton Hall game was a great game to like start off my senior year because we were coming off a loss to Nevada, I think, and then we went to Barclays to play Seton Hall. I just see it was top 25, and we won that game with no Surreal and no EC. So it was one of them things where like we all got to just band together and just get this win. And of course, that's Hurley's alma mater, so of course he wanted to beat them. And like we just went in that game, just played our heart out, and just got the win. And big games really don't bother me too much because I love the energy, I love the crowd. You feed off the energy a lot. It's just the atmosphere of a big game is just something you really can't can't not love, you know.
Yeah. Tell me about that game, why it was crazy and what was going on in the game.
It
And
was like as I said, like we were undermanned. So two of our best players were out, and we just had a tough loss to Nevada. And then Seton Hall was on top of the Big East, number 20 in the country. They had all these All-Americans on their team, and it was just a back and forth game. And it basically came down to who's going to make the last shot. And then Jared did. And then that's what it was. And then ever since then, that's when like our momentum started. Even though we lost the next day to Virginia, we still knew that this was going to be special because we was holding on with teams without best player, and we were thinking ahead like once they get back, this is really going to be special. And the Virginia loss was our last loss for like 2 3 months, I think.
wow.
I think
And
we went on won 18 in a row, 16 in a row.
so you attribute that Seton Hall win for setting the pace for the rest of the year and into the NCAA, gave you that feeling like if you could beat Seton Hall, you'd beat anyone.
Yeah, that's my mindset. If we could beat Seton Hall without two of our best players, and then we came around and beat Providence without them as well. So I'm like, oh yeah, it's gonna be a great year. And then we kept it
Yeah.
going.
And there you had 12 points and 5 rebounds and 2 blocks. So just like I said, you show up in the big games, also in the other games too, but you seem to like big lights, and you don't get rattled by them at all. And then you had your first career triple double, 17 points, 10 rebounds against St. Louis.
It was I think it was a late game. I think it was like a 9 o'clock game.